everyone, and welcome to the Real Life Show. We are back with another episode of the show, and today we have two new guests. I'm obviously joined by Sarah as usual, but we have two guests today, Jack Jones and Rachel Curtis. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Brother and sister.
We are.
Brother and sister.
We are.
This is a new combo for us.
It's a new combo. We've
never had
brother
had
and sister.
solos, couples.
Yeah.
Now a brother and a sister, a
Love
sibling
this.
combination.
Is this like a new section in the X Factor? So you can,
A new category.
you can be solo,
Couples, family.
or
Would
siblings.
you two go on together? I reckon you could.
We would.
Yeah.
We would be the new Ablisa.
The new what?
Ablisa, do you not remember
Don't know.
Ablisa?
No.
They were a duo. They
It's
were
a
force
moment
to be
in
reckoned
UK
with.
history
Brother and
that you want me to
sister.
see.
UK history.
Sisters,
Yeah,
I believe.
yeah. I think
Sisters?
friends actually, but or maybe they were sisters, but they didn't get the reaction that they were looking for.
Oh.
So-
I'm getting
That's
cheeky
sad.
girls vibes. That's what I'm getting.
We are the cheeky girls.
We
Oh, she's
are
gone
the
for-
cheeky
They got
boys.
some- listen. But it's great to have you on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How are you both? Are you good? Are you buzzing to be on?
I
Yeah.
am. I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I'm excited to be on with Rachel.
Oh.
Aww. He's too much.
I'm excited to be on with Rach.
That's nice.
Could have got a worse duo, couldn't I? Could have got better.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Could have had his other sibling.
Could have had.
Jokes. No, I am excited to be on. Yeah, been waiting for the
For the nod.
been waiting for the message.
Have you seen some
You
of the
made it.
episodes?
I have.
You, a favourite guest so far?
Ooh.
Can I be biased?
Yeah.
So my friend Aaron was on.
Yeah.
And that was
Okay.
great.
Is he just your friend?
No, he's not just my friend. He's lots of people's friends. But yeah, Aaron was great.
That was a great
I
one.
also watched Past the Teas.
Oh,
Of course you did.
yes.
Yeah,
That
of course
was
you did.
brilliant, wasn't
We
it?
loved that one.
Yeah, we
We
loved
loved
that
that
one.
one.
We've loved all of them, really.
Yeah, we have.
It was like an honouring podcast, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
It was the day after.
Because it was
great.
the day after, yes.
Yeah. So
Cute.
Yes.
My favourite, Jackie Passmore.
Oh, yes.
What a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a woman.
We found that everybody comes back to like a love interest, haven't
Oh,
we?
yeah. Every
So,
story so far.
Every story so far goes, well, I like this boy, or I like this girl.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why they came to Christianity.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just everybody comes back to it. So
You
I'm
know,
interested to see if it
Like
happens
everyone so far.
I'm going to break the
I
mold.
think everyone so
Jack
far.
might break
Jack's
them
going to
all.
break them all.
I'm going to break the mold.
Yeah, I would say everybody
Yeah.
so far. And Pastor T was one of them ones where we were like, oh,
Oh.
No
Okay.
way.
Weren't necessarily.
He said he was a looker when he was younger as well.
he did
didn't
that on the podcast.
Oh,
He said he
yeah,
was a
I
looker.
reckon he was.
Cheeky one.
Yeah,
He was
he did, yeah.
Yeah.
I think mine is. It didn't start as a love interest, but obviously.
Well, we'll get to
Yeah.
that.
We're
Let's
going to
We'll
get there.
We'll
We're
to
going to
that.
get there.
Yeah,
Let's.
you're cool.
So, can you introduce yourselves?
Go on.
Hello,
Jack.
everybody. I am Jack. You may know me from a Sunday. I am part of the worship team. I'm also part of the youth team with Rachel, and I am part of youth ministry in the local
Enjoy.
area.
Yeah. Great.
That's good. I'm trying to think of something as impressive to say. My name's Rachel. So I'm the youth lead at Arise Church. A privilege to be. That's good English, Rach.
You get to work with us.
I get to work with these two wonderful people. I do, and what a ride it is! What a ride it is!
For us.
Yeah. I'm the issue.
You're a nine.
Yeah, I'm 32.
wow.
Oh,
That's how old I am.
Looking
Yeah.
great.
Looking no older than 23, the other way around.
Husband, kids?
Yeah, just the one husband.
Did I say husband?
husbands
You
and
didn't.
kids.
Just the one.
Just the one. Lovely Rob Curtis.
Yes.
Yeah,
Shout
we
out.
love Rob.
My busy mate. And my little boy, Ezra.
Yeah.
He's 2, almost 3. Good kid.
Great.
Really cute.
He's
I like-
super
like him a
cute.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah, we get on.
From time to time.
We tolerate each other. It's just one of those things.
He
Nice.
is super cute.
He's
Cool.
really cute, I must say. I make cute kids. Just the one so far.
Yeah.
I don't know why I say so far. In total.
Is that definite? Have you spoke to Rob about that?
Exclusive here.
Exclusive to the real life.
The real life
Rob's gonna
exclusive.
kill me for saying that. He's gonna kill me for saying that.
Sorry, Rob.
Sorry, Rob.
Nice.
I do really
Yeah.
keep forgetting that this is being filmed.
The cameras are
And that
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
not just having a
We're not just having
conversation.
a convo.
That's good though. That's how
Yeah,
we want you to
It
feel.
is.
That's how
It
we
means
want
you
to
feel comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. The real
Yeah.
life
Too
show.
It's real life.
It is real life. What can I say?
That
It's real
is
life.
true. So we always start here,
Always.
and always, and we want to know, how did you come to know Jesus? Rach, we'll start with you first.
Me first.
Yeah.
Okay. So, when I look back now, I definitely have seen instances when I knew who God was in my life before the big moment of where I gave my life to Jesus. And so, like, when I look at my childhood and times where I went to a CEV school, and so we talked about God, we talked about Jesus. And so I had sort of an idea of who he was, and I used to pray when I was younger, but I hadn't made that declaration yet. I hadn't made that, official moment of like, oh, come into my life and reveal yourself to me. So that first real moment happened when I was struggling a little bit. I was struggling with my mental health. And I'd been speaking to this guy at work, and he said he was a Christian and, sort of mentioned that he'd gone to church. And I wanted to explore that more and find out what that looked like. And he said, well, you're welcome to come anytime. And so I came to church, like it was like the first week of the 6 weeks holiday in 2015. And it was on that night where it was like an overwhelming moment of experiencing God and Jesus and him being and Jesus being revealed for who he truly is to me, because I had no distinction between I suppose what we call the Trinity. I didn't know who was who, but on that night it all made sense and it all came together, and I saw him.
Wow.
Not physically, but saw him for who he was and is. And then I didn't look back. I just wanted to keep knowing more of who he was.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Can you remember like the date and all that?
It'll be, I can't remember the actual date, but it'll be like the 20-something of July,
Oh, wow.
2015. Yeah,
Cool.
when I came into church, I believe.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Jack?
So obviously Rachel had started going to church, and as we know, Rachel's my sister. So then Rachel invited me. You started serving at youth.
I did, yeah.
So she was part of the youth ministry, and as like a 14-year-old, Rachel invited me very kindly. Was like, "Oh, why don't you come to youth?" So I came, and I walked in and decided that I hated it. I was just like, these people are weird. We will not get along. Like, what is going on? Turns out that the Lord is quite ironic and funny that these are now some of my best friends, such as Aaron. Well, probably was an Aaron like Lucy, Ellie Hill, these kind of people. So I was like, these guys are really weird, really strange. Turns out I am too. So welcome to the family. So then I was going through the night. I was given a pack, really, which had like, I don't know, like a Haribo in, a Bible, and probably like a card that was like, "Thanks for coming," like, and I was like, "Never coming again, bye."
Peace.
Don't invite me. Don't look at my address. Just don't even think about inviting me. And then I kind of when I was like one of those secret Christians like that was in my like bedroom, like reading the Bible, falling in love with it. It kind of become like a Jesus EastEnders when I was reading some of it. I was like, no way did that happen. No way has this happened. Lot turned around and turned into sort of what's going on. All this stuff was going on. It was just crazy. I was like, is this really true?
So
and
you were reading your Bible just on your own?
In my bedroom, really.
Anyway.
But then I was also having conversations with Rachel that sometimes like, I would feel that we're like quite differing because I was learning about who Jesus was.
Yeah.
So like I was reading and then speaking to Rachel, and then actually my way in. So Rachel said, "Oh, come again. Like, trust me, it's not that." Like Rachel, I think, convinced me to come again for the second time, and that's when actually I felt like I was really united. And I remember Jono was like talking, and he did a talk on like computers. And I can't remember what it was specifically, but shout out to John.
John Martin, yeah.
John Martin. So then he was doing a talk, and then I came back, and it was around the time when Rachel was getting baptised. So that was my sneaky way of going, oh, I'm going to support Rachel.
Oh, wow, okay,
I'm supporting Rachel in this.
Yeah.
Like what I was the good sibling, really just following along. So then Rachel went and got baptised, and then actually the next baptism service was me.
Wow.
So it was like a journey of actually Jesus came to rescue me. And it was really through like scripture and religion when me and Rachel would have conversations.
Yeah.
Like you would help me really.
Was there a moment, or would you say it was a gradual, like?
I think there was a moment. This is like I feel like there was a moment in my bedroom. I was like, oh, okay, Jesus, like I trust in you. And actually, like I'd be walking down the stairs, and I was like, oh, I've accidentally become a Christian. Like, like oh, am I? Like, do you know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, am I? Like,
Yeah.
that's a very Christian thing to do. Like I'm going to youth on a Friday and going to church on a
Yeah.
Sunday. I'm a Christian. I feel like sometimes you've got to look in the mirror and be like, I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus. But then I think like my first way in really for like church was through Rach. But then I think there was like a moment in like a congregation where I was like, oh, okay, like, I believe in Jesus and declaring it not only to my bedroom but to my church friends, to my family. And then also like baptism goes along with that. So the next, when I was being baptised and my family came and got to hear about me deciding to follow Jesus, I think that kind of was... I think there was like multiple like moments of like, I'm following you, Jesus. And actually now in my life there's multiple. Yeah. Today I'm deciding to follow you, Jesus. Yeah. Today's hard. I want to decide to follow you.
Yeah.
So
wow.
So we always start with that question because we love to get there, and then we kind of now reverse a little bit. Yeah. So you can kind of jump in on each other now and talk together. But talk to us now about like pre this time then when you've the person you're talking about at work is Rob. Yeah,
my husband.
Yes, your husband. Which we'll get to that as well. But talk to us about like your childhood growing up, like as brother and sister growing up in that space. You spoke a little bit about how you were exposed to church a little bit, and you knew of church. So like bring that in as well. Like talk to us about that pre deciding to follow Jesus, when maybe you weren't even aware of what that life could be. Talk to us about that.
I feel in a way like me and Jack, young childhood had two completely different childhoods.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say.
So my biological dad passed away when I was about 13. So Jack's biological dad is who raised me, and who I'll consider my dad, but wasn't my dad for a big portion of my life in terms of like my early childhood years. And so me and my brother and my mum, we lived in hostels for a little bit to try and find the accommodation that was right after my mum had separated from my dad. And I remember being in a hostel and lying in a bed, and I think I don't know if there was more than one bed, but me, my mum, and my older brother, we were all in one bed. And I remember thinking there, like, seeking some sort of safety and something from something outside of a human. I definitely remember feeling that way. And the moments where I've found it a little bit rocky in my childhood, I've always gone back to, like, is there something else? Is there something bigger? And I really struggled with anxiety when I was younger. Like, my mum called me a hypochondriac because I was at the doctor's like 24/7. There's something wrong. And I drove my mum absolutely around the twist. I don't know if Jack's old enough to remember. Was old enough to remember these sorts of things.
I don't know, probably not then.
But I used to stand at the window, trying to get fresh air to breathe at night time, and like looking up and thinking, oh, surely there's something more out there than this, and something bigger than the way I'm feeling. Right. Me and Jack, when he was younger, we didn't get along at all. Like, there's a big age gap. There's 9 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And so he was a really annoying little brother. Really annoying.
I think that's what you need to like explain. That I think maybe you probably didn't get along with me just because I was a lot younger.
Yeah. Like,
I probably was like, oh, Rach, be my best friend, being annoying. Like,
so I would have been 16 and you would have been 7.
9.
No, hang on. 9. 7? You would have been 7 and I would have been 16. So that age gap is like significant, isn't it? Like, I'm in the prime of my teen years, loving life, and Jack's like, do you want to do some colouring? Like, no, I don't want to do some colouring, you little rat, go away.
That was That's probably me.
So like we didn't really get on. And he still to this day like tries to make out that I didn't look after him. I used to look after him all the time. I used to fetch him from school. No, he never got me from
did
school.
I don't remember Rachel ever fetching me from school.
At this point, can you tell the chewing gum story?
Okay,
Oh,
go on.
man.
Go on.
Oh,
I think
I've
it's
got to
your.
tell you.
Okay.
I've not heard this.
I was literally a newborn. I can't really tell the story in a way that
This is wrong.
justifies
This
its
is
significance
so
in my
bad.
life.
So I liked him when he was a baby, and I was chewing gum. Bear in mind, I would have been about 9.
No,
I was chewing gum, and I was over him playing with him, and he was like, goo goo gaga, and then
Cool.
his mouth was open. And I was chewing gum. The chewing gum dropped out of my mouth, fell into his mouth,
Oh, no.
and he started choking. So I panicked and went and hid behind the sofa because I didn't know
Didn't
what to
tell
do. I didn't tell my mum. I don't know why. I was the youngest up until then. Maybe that was the issue. And then my mum had to come in and save him. Otherwise,
Yeah.
wouldn't be here
No
today, would
way.
you?
So do you think miracles don't exist?
Why didn't you tell your mum?
I just panicked. I just
It's a
really
great
panicked.
story.
Well, so I'm a miracle child.
Wow.
Got saved
that
from
story.
chewing gum.
I've gone. I feel like I've gone off script of not off script because
No,
there's no
no, it's
script, but
good.
gone on.
No, it's
off
okay.
on
What was
the
your, what was
question.
what you say it was polar opposite then? What was your experience of growing
Yeah.
up?
So I obviously didn't have a similar like upbringing as in childhood. So obviously mom and dad, as who Rachel calls dad now, has been in my life since I've been born really. And I just grew up with mom and dad and siblings really. I remember actually knowing from quite an early age that there was something like different. That like I was a child that was different from Rachel and Liam. Actually, like I was, there was something different, but like mom was never like, there's anything to separate you. Mum was always like, no, you're all part of
Yeah.
one family.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I would never say half sister. Like absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like that's my sister. Like we just never use that terminology, Josh. We would never use that. But so growing up, like I definitely knew that there was something maybe a bit different about me in that sense. But like it never, I wouldn't say it affected me because of the unity we had as a family. Like
that's
there might
nice.
have been something different within me, but there was never anything that I felt that you guys made me feel different. Would you
Yeah.
agree like that? Like there was
Yeah.
never a
Do you
like
remember
difference.
what you thought though?
Yeah, so I used to think, also was probably told that I was left on the doorstep by a neighbour.
Who
By
said
Rachel.
that?
Me and Liam.
Do you know what? My siblings did exactly the same.
So
really mean.
I used to be told that I was left on the doorstep.
And we just found him.
And you just
believed
found
it?
it.
You believed
I was young. I
Yeah.
probably didn't know where babies
I
came from at that
believed it.
point.
Yeah, I believed it
What?
because I was the only one with ginger hair. And so, like, they used to say that I wasn't part of the family.
Yeah.
That's not okay, right?
After that, there's a kid, come on. After that,
on.
he thought, because he thought that when our biological dad passed away, he thought that mom just took us in. And
Oh,
that
okay.
his mom and dad were his mom and dad. And
Yeah.
we had no connection to them at all. And they'd taken us, we used to live next door, is what he thought. And that they'd just gone, oh yeah, you can live with us now. So he'd always been there.
Wow.
But me,
No, I don't think that was what I thought. I always thought that I was dropped off on the doorstep.
we probably told you that as well.
Oh. Well, we tried to play each other, is what I'm saying, because I
Yeah.
was saying, they were just
That's
neighbours
mean.
that...
Yeah.
It sounded like you had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We did have a lot
Well,
of
like,
fun.
I think like when like the fun, like as in when we like really gelled, was when I got into my teenage years. Really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when we like connected and we
Even from
built-
secondary school at 11, from 11 onwards.
Yeah, I
would
think
say.
we just bonded. We just
Yeah.
found more similarities than we did difference
Yeah.
when we was growing
Yeah.
up. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd
Did
say
you have
that's it.
any do you have any memories of before coming to church, of church or faith or anything?
So I went to a C of E school where we would have like cauliflowers fluffy and cabbages green, all that stuff, like the hymns and stuff,
Oh, okay.
and like that. And I remember making Christingles. Do you remember with the oranges?
Yeah.
Do you remember those? Oh, they were elite, weren't they? And then I also
Christmas decor.
Christmas decor. If you don't have one of those, you're not celebrating Christmas, is what I'm saying.
I think they're a hazard. Those cocktail sticks. Nightmare.
Spiky
Cocktail
orange.
You trip
sticks.
and fall on that.
I mean, it would
Go on.
be, it'd be.
Go
on,
go
go
on.
on.
Go
But
on
I
then.
also
No
was.
coming back from that.
Sorry.
Sorry.
carry on, Jack.
So I was also part of choir. I was a choir boy. So
Were
I was. Yeah, I
you?
was in primary school.
I can see
Do you
In
that.
primary
remember
school.
One of the
No. The fingers come out. No. So I was part of a choir. So I wasn't really like good at like lots of things at school. Like I was very much a middle of the road. Like I don't think I was bad at much either. Like I was just a middle of the road
Yeah.
student. Like I was a C student, even in like primary school. Like I don't know what it is, 3A. Like I was a 3A student. I was never pushing for the high grades, but I was never like needed to really be pulled up. But then music was the thing that I just really excelled at. So in primary school, I remember like the teacher marching me out to my mum. My mum thought, oh my goodness, what is happening with this child? I've just got the naughtiest child. And actually was just marching me out to say that I'm a really good singer. And that I should go for choir. So then I went for St. Peter's Choir in Wolverhampton, and I got in, but I actually cried that much that Mum never sent me again because I was so scared of going and singing in public. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
But you went to a Catholic secondary school as well, didn't you? So
Yeah.
you had like, although
It was
obviously we
different.
don't have mass and things like that, but like you had this idea of God the Trinity.
Yeah, so like
From
in
there.
secondary, if you're talking like secondary school, like going from that, because don't forget, I decided to follow Jesus while I was in secondary school.
Yeah, like
so I
15,
was
14,
experiencing
yeah.
like Catholic traditions, whilst also being part of I say Christian as if Catholics aren't Christian, but like a
Yeah.
Christian
I know what you
church,
mean.
Yeah,
but
Pentecostal.
like so a Pentecostal church, for example.
Yeah.
So, but before that, I knew of Mass, I knew of the Trinity, I knew of Jesus, but maybe it was just a bit different. Is
Yeah.
what I came to. Maybe I knew of him, but I didn't know who he was
Yeah.
in that moment. I knew of the Bible, but I
Yeah.
didn't actually know or read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your parents no experience of Christianity or anything like that, like in the home?
So like dad was brought up Catholic,
Roman Catholic.
Roman
wow,
Catholic,
okay.
and Nan was Catholic as well.
Ah.
So actually,
Yeah.
Nan went because our Nan was poorly when she was a child,
Yeah.
and she grew up in a nunnery.
Yeah.
Did she?
So
Wow.
like nuns at those years back in my day.
Is that your dad's?
Like
mum?
very
Dad,
traditional.
So like
Yeah, Catholic
nuns would
nun.
like look after poorly children, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Like, and do like the
Wow.
healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was
Wow.
brought up in a not her family weren't strict, but like obviously the nunnery was strict.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, but that although they kept that faith, like that wasn't necessarily
Mm.
a day-to-day living out
No.
of the faith. It was just like almost like a tick box on a thing.
Yeah.
Like our dad will still say, "I'm Roman Catholic," even though he follows absolutely no like traditions of what they follow. But
Yeah.
he says he believes what they believe.
Wow.
But my mum was completely like, my mum.
I
Our
know
mum.
we always do this. My
We do.
mum.
Just your mum.
Just your mum.
Like completely non-religious, like not atheist but non-religious.
Yeah.
So when I first started coming to church, like she believed that I was joining a cult.
Yeah.
Like she got really stressed. She got really worried.
Did she?
She was like, "You need to be careful with what you're doing. You don't know what you're getting yourself into."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now, like, so my mum has said yes to Jesus. I don't know if you know this story.
No, go on.
This
tell me.
will be really mad.
About you, everyone.
So I prayed the salvation prayer with mum.
Oh,
I don't know.
That's fantastic.
my mum's name's in the book of life. What a great moment. Real life exclusive.
So we were in the car,
That's
and I said to mum, do you know how to accept Jesus into your life? And she was like, well, I don't know what any of that means. And so I said, like, this is what you do. I said, and if you like, what someone would pray if they wanted to pray is this. So I prayed it, and then we were quiet in the car. And I think it was later on, either the day or a couple of days later, I said, did you pray that prayer? And she said, yeah, I did. And I was like, there we go.
That's
Wow.
beautiful.
Yeah, that's cool, isn't it? And I was thinking about telling this story on here and thought to myself, I must tell Jack that happened
That's bonkers.
before we have
Wow.
this conversation. But yeah, so like she's
Amen.
accepted
That's
Jesus
incredible.
into her life. She always says, I don't know if she says this to you as well, like church isn't for me. Like
Yeah.
church isn't for me.
I was just
Like,
going to say, what does she think of
she's got to
church?
get her head round it. Like I think it because it's such a big commitment for her, and because
Yeah.
she's older, like it feels like such a drastic change
Yeah.
to come to church and involve yourself in a community of people that like you wouldn't normally find yourself in. As we know,
Yeah.
churches from all different walks of life, lots
Yeah.
of different people. Mum likes her comfort zone, and to she likes the people that she feels
Yeah.
safe with.
Yeah.
She's not much of a risk taker.
Yeah, I think it's a way in as well within church. Like I count myself blessed that like I had a way in,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
really easy way in. Like
Yeah.
I could have just been a skin tag on Rach, like in terms of just going in and do you know what I mean though?
Legion.
Like no, but as in like I could have just like followed Rach behind her and just I say that in like jest, but like
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like it was easy. Like
Yeah.
the Lord didn't make it difficult for me to
Yeah.
come to church.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was just supporting Rach. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't even coming to church to be like, I'm coming to church. I was
Yeah.
like, I was just
Yeah.
coming to support Rach and checking
Yeah.
it out.
But
I was like,
often
oh.
it is because we know someone or someone has
Yeah.
Yeah.
invited us.
Yeah.
So like that's what happened with you and Rob.
Yeah.
So like, obviously you met at work, didn't you?
Yeah.
So like Rob's a Christian. So
Mm.
what were your first impressions of Rob?
Rob was really different, like to any of the other like men I'd met, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like he didn't seem interested in women in the normal way that I'd seen men interested in women.
Yeah.
That they were interested in flirty banter and making maybe sometimes inappropriate jokes and all
Yeah.
different stuff. And so I thought, oh, maybe he's just not interested in women. Like he's just not. And I remember talking to my friend and saying, "Oh, he's a nice chap, isn't he? But I don't think he likes women." And she was like, "No, he does. He's just a Christian."
Oh, really?
And he was just really respectful. And like when he was chatting with you, like he actually wanted to know like really deep things about your life, and that is what Rob's like.
That
Like
is Rob.
he wants to know your innermost secrets. Like
he does.
tell me everything. Like, tell me it all. And so it was refreshing to sort of like have a conversation with someone that just wanted to know you for you and wanted
Yeah.
to know what you were, why you ticked and what you were about and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And so there was no like initial like, oh gosh, I really fancy this guy,
Yeah.
or I want to go to church for this guy. I suppose the motive for talking to him in the first place was like, I hear you go to church, like,
Was he?
like what's all that about? Like,
Yeah.
tell me. And I did use, sorry, Jack, I did used to mess around, and like say, do you have to wear special hats to go to church and special skirts? Can the women only wear skirts? And like just really odd questions. Where I got these ideas from, I don't know.
It's like you had Alpha before doing Alpha. Like you
Yeah.
asking all those
With
questions.
Rob?
I did, and then he actually said, "Alpha is a thing."
Aw.
So we weren't dating or anything. We were just mates. I was dating someone else actually when we first met. And then when I became a Christian, sort of my mindset around relationships changed.
Yeah.
And that was really difficult for someone that wasn't a Christian
Yeah.
to accept. And so although they were a wonderful person, that relationship just wasn't going to work out. And so
Yeah.
we decided to end it.
Did they not want to come to church or anything?
I don't think it was even. I think because it was so early on for me, I hadn't even thought about this idea of inviting other people and
Yeah,
asking them
yeah.
to be part of
Sure.
what I was doing. It was just something that I was exploring and just seeing what it was all about. And so for them, I think it wasn't even a question of.
Yeah.
And because it was just dating in terms of like early on dating,
Right,
it just
okay.
made more sense to be like, okay,
Yeah.
this isn't working.
Wow.
So with all the questions that you had for Rob and those, obviously, like you were saying them in jest, and I'm
Yeah.
guessing he was replying with, "Of course not," and that's
Yeah.
not going to happen.
Yeah.
But like with like the stereotypical of what everyone thinks church is, like the hymns and
Yeah.
the pews and all the hymn books
Yeah.
and all these kind of things. What was your first impression of when Rob brought you into that space? Like,
Yeah.
what was your reaction to, I don't know, an electric guitar, or like the welcome at the door, or
Yeah.
the coffee bar that was on? Like, what was that initial
question.
walk in like?
So chaos and madness. I remember coming in and thinking, this ain't church. This doesn't feel like this. I've been to churches before. Where's the organ? Because this is what church is. And I remember coming in, and I think this is an example of how Arise, it was Calvary then, but how Arise and Calvary do the whole welcome situation and what that looks like. But Rob didn't come and greet me when I came in. Like, Rob stayed talking to his group of friends.
Did he?
So he
So
was...
you didn't walk in with Rob then?
No, I walked in on my
wow.
own. I walked into the back of church. I remember standing
Well
by the
done,
coffee
Rach.
bar just in front and looking around. And I saw Rob. I don't know if I saw Rob, but I just stood there thinking, I don't know what I'm doing here. And then John Martin came down and said,
The
you must be
train.
Rob's friend. And I said, I am Rob's friend. He said, oh, it's really nice to meet you. And he was preaching that day as well. So he would have had
John
so much in his mind.
Martin.
Like, but he came over and said, like, hello. And he said, oh, I'll take you to Rob if you want. And I said, yeah, okay. And I went over and Rob was like, right. And I was like, everybody else in this room has welcomed me apart from you. You've asked me to come here. You are clearly not interested in me in any way, shape or form.
Do you think
He was
nervous 'cause
very
he did
nervous.
like you?
Yeah, like at that point, I think it was a bit like, oh, this
Yeah,
girl's coming
yeah.
to church. Like, what does this look like?
Yeah.
But we didn't date for a really long time.
Really?
Like
Like how
time.
long?
So I came in July, and we didn't start dating until January.
Wow.
Like, so
wow.
we were like, is this something? Is this,
Flirting.
is this not something? Bit of flirting a little bit later on in the day. But I remember being at church. Sorry to go back to what we were chatting about. I remember being at church and sitting, and I was probably like middle to back, and I sat middle to back for a really long time, like. And I remember just like observing what was going on and thinking, is this normal? Like, is this what churches are like? Or as my perspective and my experience being the abnormal? And and it wasn't. It was just different from the experience that I'd had coming to our church.
Yeah.
And it's not to say which one's right, which one's wrong. Like, it was just very different. And it was for me that this worked and this was accessible for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had an environment where I had a real encounter with Jesus, and
Yeah.
so why would I not want to be there?
Yeah.
Why would I want to go? So yeah, like my, I don't know if this is one of the questions, but I'm going to carry on talking about it anyway. My like experience from coming into church was like 0 to 100. Like I went from attending church in July to starting to serve on team at youth in November, to then speaking at youth in like December, January, something like that. And it went like from, it felt like 0 to 100, and then being involved in lots of different teams. Like probably, I don't know if, do you think I'm an all-in person? I don't know if I
think we
am.
both are.
But like,
I'd agree the
it was
same.
like, it was that or nothing, like everything or nothing.
If I'm going to
And-
do something, I'm
I'm do all of it.
Yeah.
And I think massively what was a huge factor in that was finding your place within church, finding people that are like-minded in terms of who you spend your time with, who are then investing into you outside of just a Sunday service.
Yeah.
And so we had a group of friends, and Rob invited me into different social situations where we had a group of friends who did that and helped me along, and I suppose took me from where I was to a place of where I wanted to sacrificially give of my time and finances to Jesus, because I saw what he was doing in
That's so cool.
lots of other people's lives as well.
So so this is happening, Jack.
Yeah.
What? So you're not yet. You're witnessing your sister going to church with this guy from work. She's off.
So I didn't know the guy from work at this
you didn't
point.
know Rob.
No.
What is your? So when Rach comes over and says, "I'm going to church," like your mum starts thinking that maybe you're joining a cult.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts towards this person who's taking Rach to church and the fact that she's even going in the first place?
I reckon it was banterful and probably
sure,
and like the things that I would say now, Lord, sorry, but like repent them, right?
Yeah.
But like I probably wasn't as like approving as like maybe like I would take the mic.
Yeah.
Probably would. I'd be like, oh, you're going to the Bible squad, Jesus squad, whatever. And like I would say something, not mean, but I'd be like, I would probably like take the mic, wouldn't I?
Yeah, you would definitely like, why are you going there? There
Why are
isn't
you
a
going?
God. Like,
Yeah,
God
yeah.
isn't real, so I don't know why you're
I used to
saying
actually,
Wow,
this is
no
like
way.
back in like these days, would be like, we are our own God of our own life.
that. Yeah.
Like that would be my philosophy stance, right? I'd be like,
yeah.
oh, we are the God of our own life. We make our own decisions for our own life.
Yeah.
And then, but then like when youth started coming around, really, I think that was when things started to change,
Yeah.
really, in that sense, because I was then like reading scriptures, really. I think that's when it started, when I was like dabbling in scripture, having more conversations with you. And you might have then noticed, like, why are these conversations looking different? Probably because you thought, oh, I'm going to youth, which was partly true. And then I obviously had my friendship group, which then welcomed me into church,
Yeah.
which was I had a different experience. My friendship group actually did run up
Sorry.
and welcome me. Sorry, Rach, not for your fault, the fact that Rob didn't come up and welcome me, but
John did.
my friendship group does love me and did welcome me. And they were showing me where we all sat,
Did
and they were like, "Oh, come and sit with us." There was no like awkward I never had the awkward moment of where do I sit,
Yeah.
because my friend said, "You're with us."
Who
You're
was
with us.
that?
So there was like Lucy Griff, Ellie, people like Alistair at the time. I'm trying to think of more people. Like it was definitely like Ellie Hill and Lucy Griff and
Oh, that's
Alistair at the
amazing.
time, and James. Like James would have been there, James Harrison. Where they were like, "Oh, this is where we sit." And we say you probably would have been. We've saved you a seat. Like that was the type of friends that I had. We've got you a seat for this service. Like, don't worry about finding where to sit. So they would have just taken me there, really. So
That's
my
brilliant.
welcome to like church really was that I didn't have an awkward welcome because I already knew people generally that I had good friends.
Yeah.
And
You'd
good
come in
church
from
members.
youth and you sort
Yeah.
of found your way.
But also I had like Rachel, so even if like
Yeah.
I didn't have my friends to
You
sit
had a
with,
backup.
I would have been like, oh, I'll just sit with Rach.
Yeah.
No, like I didn't have that awkward
What would you
moment.
say to somebody? So you obviously accepted inviting to go to youth reluctantly.
Yeah.
Because you thought I don't want to be there. But you went, and then like when you came into church and experienced that, what would you say to somebody who maybe has a family member who has started this journey and they're like, what, out of nowhere, kind of 0 to 100 kind of experience, and a family member saying, why don't you come here with me next Sunday, and see what you think? Like, what would you say to somebody? Because you may have pushed back a little bit to begin with, and said like, I don't know about that. What would you say to somebody who's experiencing that right now to encourage them to make that step?
Sometimes we don't know it all, and actually somewhere that someone's trying to take you is actually probably going to reveal something of your life that you need. Wow. You might think that you've got it all together, and we all try and pretend that we do, right, to a certain extent, even in Christians. But actually it's okay to just say, oh, I actually need this part of my life. I need this extra bit of family. I need this community. And it obviously is more than that. But like, don't try and pretend that everything's okay and you don't need that. Because that was my perspective of life. Not even that I don't believe in God. Why would I need God?
Wow.
Right? It would have been my perspective. My life was great. Like I didn't want for anything. I didn't need for anything. And that's true. But I actually was lacking something that was beyond wanting or needing for. It was actually truth.
That's true.
That is what I was lacking. So don't pretend that you've got it all together, and trust people that are trying to guide you in the right direction, really.
That's good.
What about you, Rach?
Yeah.
I think it's allowing someone time. Like, I think my mum was so worried. She was worried before I'd even gone, and she hadn't seen the result of any of it. And so, you know, when somebody is stepping into church or you know, something new where you're a bit like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, you've got to allow that person the time to explore it and then see what happens. And like Mum will say now openly, like, it's the best thing that happened to us, like both of us.
Wow.
Like, she recognises like the effects of not just God, because He's done the transformation, but the people that we put ourselves around, and the you know, the man that I married, and the friendship group that Jack then went into. That you know, I don't know if you've chatted about it, maybe on other podcasts or other times at church, that like Jack was sometimes quite naughty at school, and like it was difficult at school, but that changed, and he became you know, changed from this guy that was causing teachers a lot of aggro to a person that, you know, was going to talk about Jesus to his mates at school. And so it's, I think, you know, once my mum had seen over time what had happened with us, okay, I didn't need to worry back then, but just give it a bit of time and see what happens. Allow them the space to explore it. And if it's church, hopefully good things will happen.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Time is
You
big
two
thing.
are so like, you're so cute, and I love this whole like brother sister relationship. And like, none of my siblings know Jesus and have not come to church or anything. So like, what are the benefits of doing this Christian walk together and having each other? Like, that must have felt really good when Jack started coming to church. I'm
going to try and not get emotional, because I will
You can
definitely
get
emotional.
emotional.
You can.
Most
It would be the
people
first
have.
time we've had an emotion guest.
I find Jack's faith and love for Jesus really inspiring and admirable. And I think it pushes me to lean in more and to listen more and to learn more and spend more time with Jesus. Because having someone so close to see the transformation that happened in their life, when you see the ins and outs of it, you realise how much God is doing and how good He is. And so watching that person lean in, it encourages you to do the same and want that for yourself and find it for yourself. I think there's times where maybe I was disinterested and pulled away a little bit and was a bit like, okay. But then when you've got someone that you live with who's younger than you, that you feel, okay, I need to be a role model to this guy as well. I need to come on, try and do something. Read your Bible or pray or go to church on a Sunday morning or a Sunday night, even when you don't feel like it. So yeah, I think it pushed me to not get lazy in my faith and be better, not just for myself, but for Jack.
Oh, thanks, Rach.
Oh.
That's all right.
What about you, Jack?
What I love about having like someone like Rach in my life is that I'm from a different way of like I came to know Jesus after you, that I never did it alone. Like I never did it in my family moment, like in my family sphere. I never did it alone.
Yeah.
So like I experienced church before I even went to church.
Yeah.
So I was with Rach. I was fellowshipping with Rach. I was speaking to Rach, and actually that how like I lost friends, but actually like I gained like more of Rach, and I gained more of that. So actually I was never isolated, and I think like in a walk of faith, when you decide to follow Jesus, it's easy to become isolated. But when I had Rachel, it like it combated that. It said, actually, no, there's no isolation in the kingdom. Like, we're together and we're one. So actually, it made it really easy to walk with Jesus, because I wasn't alone. I was never alone walking with Jesus. When I was talking to my mum about Jesus, I was never alone doing it. Right? I always had Rachel to be like, oh yeah, what he's saying is true, what he's saying is right. Which obviously you didn't experience for a little bit, but that is like the main thing of like, we can easily become isolated when we decide to follow Jesus. But actually, it's not an isolating thing. It's actually a unifying thing of coming together as the church.
Sorry.
Can I add something real quick?
Go.
So I would say, like, I'm trying to think when we would have like became best friends, because like we said, we were, we weren't that close when you were younger, and it would have been before you became a Christian.
Or before you became a Christian, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So like, that was when I was like, oh, my little brother's my best mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I think is unusual
That's
to have
so
a sister
cute.
and brother as
Yeah.
best friends. And so for a long time, I would say Jack was my best friend. I have to include Rob in it now, otherwise he gets sad.
Rob's my best friend too.
He won't admit to that.
Yeah.
So like, he's my best friend. To then have a best friend who is also a Christian, like, is a massive deal.
Yeah.
Because like my friend who's a girl, who I would consider my best girlfriend, she became a Christian recently, and it's different. It's different when you haven't got that relationship, because you feel like, I hope she doesn't take this offensively, you feel like you're serving in that relationship because you want them to come to know God. But when that person already knows them, you feel like you're journeying alongside them rather than serving that person in that. And she's the most giving person ever, but in that aspect, she couldn't be, because she didn't know Jesus yet. But when you've got a best mate who is, with Jesus and walking with him as well, you're like, oh, this is a lot easier.
That's kind of what I was going to ask. I was going to ask, so when you were younger, didn't like him.
Nah.
Then like secondary school came around, and like it starts to become like, oh, this guy's funny. Actually,
Really funny.
And then you became like bezies.
Yeah.
Like when Jack said yes to Jesus, and was there an even more enhancement of that relationship then? Like, did you feel like even closer? Like,
I'd say so.
Did you see a difference?
I think there must have been.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like forever now, doesn't it? Like, this just feels really normal.
Yeah,
so
normal.
to think back, and be like, oh, was there a noticeable difference? But I think there must have been, because we were at odds a little bit when I was starting to go to church.
Yeah.
Because you were like actively trying to wind me up about it, and I was like, I'm trying to do this and it's making me feel good, and it, I'm experiencing something that's really powerful, and you're putting me down all the time. So I think once that happened,
when But obviously, there was a difference.
Yeah.
And I remember a distinct moment that I was around family and Rachel wasn't there, and we was talking about faith and how isolated that felt.
Oh yeah, you got annihilated.
I got
to be fair.
annihilated.
Did you?
Like they were talking to me about faith and why
Really
everything
deep, hard
Ro-
questions.
Yeah, like I probably knew Jesus for a few months, and they were asking me like, I don't know, why do bad things happen in the world, right? And I was like, I need alpha before I speak to you about this, right? But I remember being like, like I needed Rachel. I needed Rachel in that moment. I remember like leaving and speaking to Rachel. I remember like
Yeah,
being
you
on the
did.
phone.
Did
I was
you?
like,
Yeah.
I've just been annihilated.
I don't know if I've said the right things.
Yeah, I
Have I said
don't
the right things?
Have I said the
Yeah,
right
Jack,
things?
you have.
Right?
Also.
And I remember that being like a moment where I was like, this faith journey is us coming
Yeah.
together, and that was like a
You
solidifying
often
thing.
find yourself like leaning on each other, like in those situations, like when it comes to family, because like in family,
Yeah.
like we are exposed to those kind of questions, aren't we? It's like when we've done baptism and we've like declared our faith publicly, and then we're so open about it, like you do expose yourself to being opened, and like you can't like begrudge them of that because you're Christian, like you've said, I've got a faith, like so like you are open to those conversations, and in every walk of life, like problems come. Like, do you find yourself like when you probably in the past would have lent on a friend or something, like do you find yourself leaning on each other regularly?
Yeah, I ring him all the time.
And we ring each other all the
He
time.
rings me all the time,
Yeah,
and then
that's
I'm
true.
like, I know he's going to ring me, so I can just vent to him once he
yeah.
calls me. But yeah, I think we do. I think like we haven't had that many family experiences where it's been like, oh, this is really, really challenging. But in the times where we have, we definitely have.
One thing I would say, Rachel's much better at navigating those family
she?
experiences and like not making them happen, but I feel like you're more like, I feel like you'd make it happen. Like you'd be the person more than maybe myself. I don't know why that is. I don't think there's like a specific reason. I just think you were quite good with those conversations, maybe more than what I was.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I can be a bit like, this is it. This is the...
Yeah. I think because we haven't had those conversations with people for a while in terms of when it was new and we first became Christians, people had a lot of questions and they wanted to ask stuff all the time. You would have been really young. Like, you would have been like...
15?
Yeah, 15 to like 18. And so naturally you wouldn't have been the person that brings this sort of or has this conversation. Whereas, I was older and so would have been sort of trying to bring the conversation around Jesus somehow.
Had a
but like-
maturity as well, didn't you? Obviously, at that age, you had like that maturity and authority to actually speak into it. Not to saying that 15-year-olds don't have authority to speak into things.
Yeah.
But I think in our family situation, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
like it was right. Like you had the authority in that moment, and if it would have maybe come from me, I think it would have landed differently. 'Cause it's like, why is this 15? Why is my child trying to tell me? Whereas like Rachel's maybe more of an eye-to-eye figure with, for example, mom. At that moment where she could see eye to eye with Rach.
I think now, like, it's definitely equal in terms of how much we lean on each other for stuff.
Oh yeah.
And like, not just in those family situations, but stuff in general, and stuff that we're journeying in life.
And one thing that you have in common, which will lead us to what we're going to talk about next, is
Is that we can both sing really well.
no comment. But that, like, your heart for the youth and young people in this area, or whichever area you're actually placed in, and I love, and like when I'm listening, then I was like it wasn't long after you became a Christian, which and I believe like when Jack came into, like, God was like Rach needs Jack. Like I want to see these guys grow together, and like the fact that you've been able to grow together in faith, not that far apart in when you started to know Jesus, is like such a beautiful thing and such a God-given thing, isn't it? And now He's actually putting you also on the same path as in youth ministry, and it's in like, if nobody knows, like Rach, like you said at the start, is a youth leader at Arise, but also Jack, you work as a youth leader in Quinton. So God has both placed you in a position of leadership within youth, and you're responsible for young people within churches, within multiple churches in Quinton. Like that's a massive thing. So like, before we get on to that and what that is like to do together, like what led you to youth ministry? What was the moment where God said, "This is where"? Was it like a word you were given? Is it just a passion that you have? Like, you can answer that separately. And then
I'll let Jack go first.
Go on, Jack.
Okay. So I was finishing my degree. If you don't know, I've got a degree in music. And so I was shout out to University of Wolverhampton. Hey, the degree doesn't happen anymore, so bring that back. Anyway, that's my.
Does it not?
No, it doesn't. I've
Oh.
got like a treasure. I've got a treasure because no one else can get this. No one else can get
You
this
can't
gold
get
that I've
this.
got.
They've discontinued.
They've discontinued
the course.
my. It's like vintage.
Discontinued.
It's like vintage. My degree is vintage because you can't get it anymore.
Sell it
Fun
on,
fact, yeah.
Sell it on Vinted.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got a degree in music, and I was going up to finishing that degree, and I was like, God, I cannot wait to be a teacher. Like, I'm going to be the coolest music teacher. I'm going to go and teach in colleges, and I still think I would have been the coolest music teacher, but I'm going to stand by that. But it was around January 2021. It would have been, and I was like. I got in to do my PGCE. I was like, oh, I'm balling at this. Like, I'm too good. Like uni, I've completed it, mate. Like, I'm too good at it. Like, I did my interview, and they loved me, and I was like, oh no, like I'm gonna be the best music teacher.
When was this? Was this in
20
like last year of uni?
Yeah, last year of uni. So
Okay.
I was going to do my PGCE. Got in and everything.
Easy.
And the Lord said reject it, and I was like, no.
Oh.
I was like, don't. I was like, are you kidding me? Like the financial stability that's coming my way, Lord. I was like. No, thank you.
So you felt the Lord
they'll
said,
say, like, reject this. Like, you need...
Just for people listening, like, what was that experience? Just, you know, if there are people watching thinking, well, what does that feel like? I think I've heard from the Lord. Like, what?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, even when it was a little bit scary. I'm not even going to lie. That I was like, oh my goodness, this is in my human mind, it was scary because I say human mind as if it's a different thing, but like putting my human hat on and saying, oh, there's financial stability here, which I was talking about. There's a career like here that I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna be good for me and good for my future. Actually, I was like, oh, it's a bit scary. But what I always notice when the Lord speaks to me is that if the Lord is telling me don't do something, I lack so much peace in it. So when I got an acceptance, usually you'd think jumping for joy, but I lacked peace. I lacked that celebration. I was like, oh, but the Lord's not asking me to do this.
Wow.
The Lord's not asking me to step down this road right now. And so that for me was the moment where I was like, oh, like, Lord, am I really meant to do this? And I did a lot of trying to convince the Lord. I'm not even going to try and convince the Lord that he's wrong. Has anyone else done that?
All the time.
Oh, you never win. You never win. It's the problem because he's always right.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Lord, are you sure? Like, you should just check it. And he goes, no, trust me on this. That I'm gonna come through on this. And do you know what? Like, the Lord really has. So I actually declined it before I even did anything. I said, thank you for the invitation to come and study with you next year. I'm going to decline it and not accept it. So I was then finishing my degree, not knowing what the Lord was going to do next. And actually, similarly to this moment, so then, this is so funny how sometimes we need to step out in faith before, like, the Lord will reveal something to us. And actually, our faith can unlock something from the Lord. I believe that actually when we step out in faith and we do something in faith, it can reveal something majestic from the Lord. And I felt like I got a word from the Lord specifically after declining it, and it was the idea of from the scripture of Romans 12 verse 2. And if you've ever met me, like, it is my favourite scripture. I just love it. And it talks about, like, not conforming to the world and being transformed by Jesus. And I just felt the Lord say, you need to reveal to the next generation what it's like to not conform to the world but be transformed by me, and share the good news and pick up your cross and take that great commission, the good commission that Jesus told us to do, and reveal it to the next generation of the church.
Wow,
So
that's great, Jack.
I guess it was a moment of actually stepping out in faith and having to reject something that actually earthly, like, we can't deny that was a good opportunity, but actually it just wasn't what the Lord wanted. And sometimes there can be good opportunities in life, but it's not what the Lord wants. Right. And actually, that doesn't mean that the Lord isn't good. It just means that it's not what the Lord wants for you. Right. And
how long were you wrestling with that?
Oh, I mean, I still wrestle to this day. I'm like, Lord, are you sure you made the right decision? I'm constantly wrestling, like, Lord, are you sure you made the right decision? But seeing the fruit of ministry now, I'm like, in those moments when we see the fruit, it's like, okay, I can trust in the Lord that he's good, right? I can trust the Lord that young people are coming to know Jesus because of the hard work that we put in as people in ministry. I'm sure we all agree with that. We wrestle with the Lord constantly. I do. But I think when I got the word from the Lord, that was like a moment where actually, again, was a little bit like, I was like, oh my goodness, this is a big plate for my little hands to hold and my human hands to hold. And actually, like I had some good people getting around me really and just saying, listen, like
Yeah.
it's not about you. And that's what I needed to hear. Like some
Yeah,
people might
yeah.
hear that and go, I was like, oh, it's not about me. Thank
Yeah.
the Lord, it's about Jesus. So then I don't need to feel like I need to carry this big task, this big thing. Actually, it's just about Jesus and Jesus will carry it. But
Yeah.
it's me, the tool that Jesus uses.
Yeah.
What about you, Rach?
So the first time that I started like doing anything to do with youth was that sort of like November time in 2015, where Rob was on the youth team. He said, you know, I think you'd be great with young people. Why don't you come along and see what it's all about? So I did, and then I was sort of serving on the youth team for 2 years, and then decided to take a step back from youth team, and I was serving in different areas within church, and so youth wasn't on my agenda at all. Like I'd even gone away from working with young people in terms of like I was working with children in school, and God had spoke to me very specifically about going into to work in prison and do. You know, I'd had words of prophecy spoken over me about that particular area of life, and so coming back to youth was a massive curveball for me. Like it wasn't something that was on my agenda at all, and so you know, I've worked in prison, I've worked in probation, and then COVID happens, and I have a baby, have Ezra, and I'm coming towards the end of my maternity, ready to go back to work, ready to go back to probation. And it's an interesting story.
Yeah.
So me and Jack were, I was helping him apply for a job, and sort of talking to him about it, and sort of going on this journey with him. And he didn't get this job. And I thought, well, what's all that about? Because I really felt that Jack was the right person for this role, so I'm not sure what that's about. And then I'm sitting in my room one day, and the Lord says, you're going to apply for that job.
Wow.
And I'm like,
oh.
but I'm not though, am I? Because I've literally just gone through the whole process as my brother to do it. So why would I do that? You know, why would I go on that journey with him? I believe that this was for him. So what are you saying this for, Lord? And he kept saying the same thing, and he kept saying the same thing. And I was like, this is not for me. This is not what I've got planned. Like, if anything, I want to go back into prison. I want to go back working in sort of areas that I'd gone into before. It just wasn't a want for me. I didn't have a desire to do it. And God had spoke to me specifically about equipping people to lead younger generations. And so I was like, I just want to ignore this for as long as I can. I'm just going to ignore this and ignore this and ignore this. And God kept pushing and pushing. And for me, that was like in scripture. Like, I'm not a massive Bible reader, but I was searching for what to do. And it kept coming up time and time again, like pointing me back towards, this is what I want you to do. God speaks to me a lot of the time in pictures. So I'll get a picture in my mind or a word. He'll give me a word. I'll look in the dictionary what that word means, and like the explanation always is on topic with the answer that I'm looking for, and I'm like, you are just beyond incredible, Lord. But this wasn't the answer that I wanted this time. This, you know, he was saying these things, and I was like, Lord.
Hadn't the deadline had gone as
the
well?
Deadline had gone. Like,
yeah,
I just wasn't. I had no interest. I spoke to Jack and just sort of said, this is what I feel God's saying, and I don't know why he's saying it, but I feel like this is something I want to do. Jack was the most gracious person in the world, and was like, if that's what God is saying, that's what you need to do. Which I imagine at the time was tough, really tough.
Yeah.
Well, I know at the time it was tough because we journeyed that as well.
Of course we
and
did.
so, and then so I reached out to someone at church and sort of said, is this role sort of still available? Really hoping they'd say no, like we filled the position. Yes, you can apply for that role.
No.
What do you mean?
Oh.
So yeah, applied for the role. The more I learnt about the role, the more excited that I got. The more my heart and passion sort of erupted, is the word. And although it wasn't what I wanted, God, you know, he knows what is on our heart, and he allows us to express that in various different ways. And I when I first came to the role, my heart wasn't for the young people. And so young people might be watching this go, cheers, Rach, nice one. It wasn't. It was for the team. It was for equipping the team. But the more time I spent with these young people, the more I realised they're the team. They're the future team. They're the team that are coming around each other now. They're the team that are being equipped right now. And so you become really attached to them, the little tinkers. And you know, my heart went from, okay, this is something the Lord's asked me to do, to I'm really excited to see them on Friday, and I'm going to see what they're up to.
That's amazing.
And like, I suppose that it was hard initially, maybe, but there was never any tension.
No.
There was never a moment of, I don't want you to do that, Rach. I don't feel comfortable.
Because we had the
with you doing that,
conversation,
Rach.
though.
We did have the conversation.
Like, we had a
beforehand.
conversation that was like really clear, like, and I was like, no. And also, I couldn't have then said, no, Rachel, go for it, and then held tension in.
Yeah.
Right, that's
Yeah,
not
that's
releasing someone. That's
Yeah.
not doing that right, and that would be actually doing a service to church, not just
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
but to the next generation.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
if God's called me to bless the next generation, that's completely the opposite of what I'm doing, right?
That's
Yeah.
a great
So-
outlook, Jack.
So then I was like, oh,
Yeah. And so it was an interesting journey for me, because there was an element of like guilt, and
Yeah.
you know, never anything that Jack put on, never anything that anybody else had put on, but I knew his passion for the younger generation, and at the time I wasn't feeling it, so I was like, why would I be the person that is right for this? But like, even now with it, cause so Jack serves on the youth team at church,
yeah,
and heads up the worship element of youth.
yeah,
Like, this combo is really special. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not just saying that because he's my brother, but like, there's no one better equipped to do what Jack does with me for what we do. Like,
Yeah.
and it is incredible. And what Jack does, you know, with his own role, as in his paid role, is like above and beyond.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it is incredible what he has started. How many months ago?
started in Jan.
Jan.
My role started in October last year, but
Yeah.
ministry started in Jan.
And so that word that was spoken over Jack about this is what you're going to do,
Yeah.
like, completed it, mate.
Come into fruition.
Just
Yeah.
the Lord just takes us on different
Yeah.
paths,
Yeah.
different ways, and
Yeah.
we just don't expect it, and we're just not prepared for it most of the
No.
time. I certainly wasn't.
Also, what's similar to our like stories of like, Lord, I really don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And like, there might be something in your life, and you're listening, and you go, Lord, I really don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, trust the Lord. Like, trust the
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
Even if it's not like your want, it might be that actually, when you journey that, it actually becomes
Yeah.
the thing that
Yeah.
you are most meant to do and most
Yeah.
equipped to do. Lord, I'm not good enough to do that. Actually, step into it, because the Lord
Yeah.
will equip you. The Lord will give you the passion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, the Lord will provide a role. The Lord
Yeah.
will give you the talent, the gift, whatever
Yeah.
you need.
And he
actually
knows
step
what we
into
need,
it.
doesn't
Yeah,
he?
Yeah.
He knows our needs,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
necessarily what we want.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
He knows where we need to be
Yeah.
as well, and
Mm.
I definitely couldn't see.
Also, like, if I got everything I wanted, it'd be rubbish.
Oh,
Like, honestly, it'd be so
terrible.
rubbish.
It would be.
So,
Oh, I'd hate it.
sorry to come.
That's not
sorry to
true.
come in. We do need to bring us to a close in a sec.
Oh, man.
I know, and I feel like we could have you both on your own, and we could chat forever about ministry and all these
Yeah.
different things
Yeah.
and different things that you get up to.
Prison. I want to hear the prison
Oh
stuff.
yeah, the prison
Nice
stories
part
would be
two.
great.
And at the part two
Part
for you
two.
both. But like you said, I just want to wrap up with this. And I'm aware of time, so keep it short. But you said loads about like how God speaks to you through pictures and words and words that both of you didn't necessarily want to say yes to, and all these different things. And like, but then so there are those things sometimes when you're like, oh, I needed that, I needed to hear that and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
what would you say to somebody who's like sat at home now and they're either wrestling with the word, or they've got a word and maybe it's not coming to fruition? All these different things that go on with like a picture or a word or a scripture, or God spoke to them through prayer, or we heard yesterday at church about hearing God and all the different avenues that He uses to speak to us. Like, what would you say to somebody who's had a word, like, and what's their next step after hearing the word? Like, whether they love it or they don't like it, what's their next step? Like Jack, you alluded to a little bit about like you test it and
Yeah.
you're singing
Which is
it and
good.
you check your heart on it and like how you feel with it and stuff like that. Like, what's their next step after hearing, however it is, for a picture or anything? Like, what would you say they need to do now?
Come on, Rach, you go first.
Oh, I'll go first. Okay. I think Jack's right in terms of testing it and questioning it and sort of looking at different avenues of like, okay, has the Lord really said this and is this right? And then taking it to a trusted person and just being like, can you pray with me about this? Because I don't know what it means. I don't know what's going to happen. But I want to make sure that I'm right in hearing what God's saying. And so for me, like, in that example that I gave, like, Jack was that person, like, what is this? Like, what is going on here? And my husband, obviously, and going over that. And then taking one step at a time in terms of, like, playing it out in what God's asked you to do. I'll take one step. Okay, do I still feel like this is the right direction? Lord, are you saying this is right? Okay, I'm going to take another step and I'm going to move towards what you've asked me to do. And if sometimes things don't go smoothly and we have to keep taking littler steps than we thought we would to get there. But if the Lord said that it's going to happen and the Lord's given us a word about it, like, it's undoubtedly going to happen if we're obedient to what He's asking us to do.
Yeah, it's great, Rach.
I would just echo that as well, really, and just add on, like, be patient with the Lord on something coming to fruition. Like, I'm encouraged that Jesus was 30 when he started his ministry. I'm only 23. Like, in the fact that actually Jesus, like, took time wrestling and learning about the Lord before like starting ministry and starting that kind of stuff, and then actually his ministry was 3 years, like, right, and then obviously the cross and that kind of stuff. And we see through Scripture of people who wait on the Lord, Abraham for a son, right? All these different things where we just see people wait. Like, don't get disheartened in the waiting. Actually, like, muscle up faith, wrestle up faith with the Lord, and keep speaking to him about it, and keep speaking to the Lord about the word. Like, say, Lord, thank you for this. Even though it hasn't come to fruition, like, thank you. Thank you that you've even just been willing to trust me with this. Because actually, it's a privilege that we get to do and serve the next generation. And actually, like I said, it's not about us. So it's not about our timing either. Right? It's not about when we want something to happen. And I'm thankful that in my ministry and in the ministry that we do in Quinton, that actually the Lord's timing will be the correct timing. And even in Arise Youth, like how beautiful, like, the timing of like Arise Youth worship and all that kind of stuff. And actually it's just the Lord's timing. Like, let him come through. Like, 'cause he really does pull through. Like, see Scripture, see the testimony and read it. Like, if you got a word from God and you've got something, keep reading the Scriptures because they fill us with faith.
Yeah.
Bro.
That's
Amen.
great.
Amazing.
Great answers.
We could have talked for hours.
Yeah.
Hours upon hours.
We actually finished.
Yeah, we are, yeah.
Gonna do another one.
We have a tradition at the Real Life Show to take a selfie with our guests.
This is where
we never know how this is going to work.
I'm going to go round.
Are you going to go
I'm going to go in between them.
Oh, yeah.
And then you...
Or do you want me to shuffle up?
What do you want to do?
I think I go round and then I think we're going to see how this is going to work out. I'm going to come closer to you, Rachel.
Come on down.
Let's go down to the river.
Good, yeah.
My bum's a little bit numb.
Ooh.
There we go. Is that the one? Are we happy?
Yeah.
I'm happy. Shall I move the mic?
Yeah.
There's a shadow on my face.
Is it Jack's cat?
Is it your cat?
There we go, there we go.
Yeah, it is. Let me move forward.
There we go.
Do you know when, like, everyone smiles and they go, like they make that sound?
Yeah,
like we all did the...
We all did the...
What sound?
Oh, like the... Like, do you know when your front... Because we all smile with teeth.
Yeah.
Like our front lip sound come off our teeth. And it was like a...
Wow, let's not do that. Thank you guys for coming on though. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah,
It's been
thank you.
inspiring
Thank you
to
for
hear,
having
and
us.
we love your relationship.
Oh,
and
we do.
just how accountable you are to each other and how you journey this together. I'm sure people will absolutely love this episode, hearing
Yes.
about your walk and
Yeah.
what's gone on since
Yeah.
as well. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks,
thank you
guys.
for watching. Thank you again to Andrew and the team at the Backyard Cafe
thank
for
you.
having us in this wonderful, wonderful venue. We are available on Spotify, on Audible, on Amazon Music. Yes,
YouTube.
that's true. And on YouTube. Also, from this podcast onwards, and now including all the last ones, we're available on Apple
Oh,
Podcasts.
Apple,
We've
shout
joined
out
the
to you
Apple
for
world.
there we
accepting
go.
us.
Apple World, yeah, well done, nice.
Wow.
But it's been great. Sarah, loved it.
Yes, wonderful.
And we'll be back next month with another episode.
Yep.
See you later.
ya.
Bye.
Hallelujah, let's